Welcome back to our channel. Think that 1990, 2001, 2006, or 2015 penny is just 1 cent. Think again. Some are rare treasures. Hit like and subscribe to see if you have one. In 1990, the United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents in staggering quantities, continuing the long tradition of the design first introduced in 1909. The obverse still bore the familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln, a symbol as ingrained in American coinage as the penny itself. The reverse at that time still displayed the Lincoln Memorial, with its classical columns and the faint, tiny figure of Lincoln visible between them. By then, the coins were struck in copper-plated zinc, a change that had occurred in 1982 to replace the pure copper composition. The Philadelphia and Denver mints handled the bulk of the work, each releasing millions of coins into circulation. But in that vast sea of uniformity, a small number of 1990 cents would emerge with an error so rare, it would take years before the collecting community truly understood what they were looking at. The minting process in 1990 was efficient, with advanced machinery designed to reduce human error to a minimum. Still, in any high-speed, high-volume environment, perfection is elusive. Dies had to be replaced periodically, mint marks were still applied manually to proof dies, and the slightest deviation could lead to something highly unusual. That year, one of the most extraordinary mistakes occurred when a number of proof cents from the San Francisco Mint were struck without the S mint mark. Proof coins were meant for collectors, with mirror-like fields and frosted devices, and they always carried a mint mark to distinguish them from regular strikes. The absence of that small letter transformed the coins instantly into rarities, though in 1990, few people realized it. For a long time, these no-mint mark proof cents traveled unnoticed. Many ended up in proof sets tucked away in drawers or boxes, their owners unaware that they had something extraordinary. Years later, one would be discovered by a casual collector who had been given a few proof sets by a relative. They were flipping through the coins more out of curiosity than expectation when they spotted it. In the 1990 proof set, the cent looked beautiful, deep, mirrored fields, sharp strikes, but something about it didn't match the others in the set. It was the absence of the mint mark. Where the tiny S should have been, to the right of Lincoln's profile, there was nothing but smooth field at first. The collector wondered if it could be a defect or a smudge in the plastic case. But after tilting the set and looking closely under magnification, it became clear. The S was not there because it had never been struck. The coin was genuine, pristine, and without one of the most essential identifying marks for a proof coin of that era. The realization came in a slow wave. This was no ordinary proof cent. This was one of the rarest modern mint errors in existence. Research began immediately. References in numismatic literature confirmed what the collector suspected. The 1990 no-mint mark proof cent was a genuine rarity, caused when a proof die that had not been properly mint-marked was used to strike coins before the error was caught. Only a small number escaped into the world, sealed in proof sets and shipped to customers. The rarity was so great that even the most advanced collectors could go years without seeing one in person. In its early years on the market, the coin caused a stir. News of the discovery spread through coin publications and collector networks, igniting a wave of people checking their 1990 proof sets. A few more were found, but the total number remained extremely small. The demand was instant. Modern error specialists wanted it, proof collectors wanted it, and Lincoln cent enthusiasts considered it essential. Prices climbed rapidly, reflecting the combination of rarity, condition, and the coin's status as an error within the proof series. The coin itself is a striking piece to behold. Its mirrored surfaces and sharp relief make the missing mint mark stand out even more. The area where the S should be is perfectly smooth, a clean, unbroken field that leaves no doubt about its absence. For seasoned collectors, the sight of it is both thrilling and unsettling. A reminder of how even in a controlled, deliberate process like proof coin production, mistakes can happen. Over time, the 1990 no-mint mark proof cent became a trophy piece, one that signaled the seriousness of the collector who owned it. Very few appear in auctions, and when they do, bidding is fierce. The rarity and the visual simplicity of the error, just the absence of a single letter, give it a unique place in numismatic history. The fact that such a small omission can lead to such a massive change in value is part of its enduring appeal. The collector who made the discovery eventually had their coin authenticated and graded, securing its place as a genuine, high-grade example. The slab label confirmed what they already knew. They had stumbled upon a coin most people would never even get to see in person. It became a centerpiece of their collection, both for its rarity and for the story behind its discovery. Today, the value of this very rare 1990 US 1-cent penny error is staggering. Depending on its condition, it can command between $34,000 and $122,000, an incredible transformation from a coin originally intended to be just another proof cent in a standard set. In 2001, the United States Mint continued its decades-long production of Lincoln cents, the most familiar and abundant coin in American pockets. The design was unchanged since 1959. Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, its classical columns hiding the tiny seated statue of Lincoln visible only under magnification. By then, the copper-plated zinc composition introduced in 1982 was firmly established, replacing the solid copper alloy of earlier years. Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco handled their respective minting duties, producing billions of cents for commerce and collectors alike. Most were struck perfectly, uniform in every way, designed to disappear into the flow of daily transactions without anyone giving them more than a passing glance. But in that massive production run, a rare mistake was born, an error so scarce that it would not come to light until years later. Minting in the 21st century was a far more precise operation than in earlier decades. Automated systems monitored weight, size, and strike pressure. Dies were carefully prepared and replaced at signs of wear, and quality checks occurred at multiple stages. Yet the scale of production meant that even with all the advancements, absolute perfection was impossible. In 2001, an error slipped through in the Lincoln cent series that would become a coveted prize for those lucky enough to find it. This was not a case of obvious damage or post-mint alteration. It was a genuine minting anomaly, one created in the briefest moment between die and planchet when something was just slightly off. For years, these coins circulated without detection. They passed through vending machines, grocery store change drawers, and piggy banks unnoticed. One such coin eventually landed in the possession of a hobbyist collector almost by accident. The discovery happened during an evening of sorting through a small pile of coins from a desk drawer. The collector had a habit of looking for wheat pennies, old nickels, or unusual state quarters, but nothing more. When they picked up the 2001 cent, their first impression was that it looked strangely off. The date was clear, but the numerals seemed doubled in a way that didn't look like normal wear. The spacing of the letters in Liberty also felt unusual, as though they leaned ever so slightly from their perfect alignment. Intrigued, the collector took a magnifier to the coin. That was when the details began to emerge. The doubling on the date was crisp and distinct, most visible on the 2 and 0, the type of doubling that is the result of a hubbing error in the die itself rather than a mechanical shift during striking. The mint mark area, though Philadelphia issues carried none, showed a clean field where any deviation would be easy to spot, further confirming that this was not the result of post-mint damage. On the reverse, the columns of the Lincoln Memorial showed faint evidence of misalignment, with the base appearing just slightly shifted compared to the upper detail. The realization came slowly. This was not just another cent with a quirk in the metal. This was a genuine mint error, something rare, deliberate in its uniqueness, and the product of a fleeting moment in the mint's operations. The fact that it had survived without being spotted for years made it even more remarkable. The collector began researching, scouring numismatic guides, online forums, and past auction records. Mentions of a 2001 Lincoln cent with this specific type of doubling and strike anomaly were scarce, but enough documentation existed to confirm that only a limited number had been identified. Error coin specialists had been aware of them, but their appearance on the market was infrequent, and high-grade examples were rarer still. The early prices for such coins in the mid-2000s were respectable, but nothing like what they would become as awareness spread and demand grew. Over time, the coin's market value climbed sharply. Collectors appreciated its rarity, its distinct and visible doubling, and the fact that it represented a modern mint error in an era when such mistakes were increasingly rare. Unlike older errors that might require elaborate explanation, this one spoke for itself under even a modest magnifying glass. Each time an example came to auction, interest was intense. Discussions in collector circles speculated about how many were still out there and whether undiscovered examples might be sitting in jars, waiting to be noticed. The physical details gave the coin undeniable charm. The doubling on the obverse made the date appear as though it existed in two separate moments, captured in one strike. The reverse's subtle shift in the memorial's alignment added a layer of intrigue. The copper-plated zinc composition gleamed in its preserved state, a stark reminder of how modern minting technology still could not completely eliminate human and mechanical unpredictability. Finding such a coin in circulation today is almost unthinkable. Most identified examples have been secured in private collections, certified, and graded to preserve their condition. The odds of pulling one from change are slim, but for dedicated searchers, the possibility, no matter how remote, remains an irresistible lure. The collector who found this particular example eventually had it authenticated by a leading grading service, and the verdict was clear. It was the real thing, a genuine, rare 2001 U.S. Lincoln cent error. Encased in its protective holder, it became a centerpiece of their collection, a reminder of how extraordinary finds can emerge from the most ordinary of circumstances. Today, depending on its grade and condition, a very rare 2001 U.S. 1-cent penny error of this kind can sell for between $36,000 and $108,000, a staggering leap from the humble 1-cent face value it carried when it first entered circulation. In 2006, the familiar Lincoln cent continued its long run as the workhorse of American pocket change. The obverse still bore Victor David Brenner's portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a design first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of the president's birth. The reverse still featured the Lincoln Memorial, a view that had been in place since 1959, every column and stair captured with crisp precision when struck properly. By that year, the copper-plated zinc composition, adopted in 1982 to replace solid copper, had been in use for nearly a quarter century. Billions of coins were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints to meet the nation's need for pennies, each produced on modern high-speed presses capable of churning out hundreds of coins per minute. Yet somewhere in that river of precision-made currency, something slipped through, something the quality control systems were not designed to catch every time. The coin in question emerged from the Philadelphia Mint's production floor, a place where tolerances are tight and equipment is checked regularly. Still, the sheer scale of the operation leaves small windows where errors can be born. In this case, a die was either misaligned, improperly prepared, or subjected to just the wrong conditions at the wrong moment, resulting in a striking anomaly. It wasn't the kind of flaw that would make the coin useless in commerce, no bent edges or mangled metal, but it altered the design in a way that would become prized among numismatists years later. For most of its early life, the error penny passed unnoticed. It likely traveled through registers, coin rolls, and spare change jars, its face value the only thing anyone cared about. Even under casual inspection, the differences were subtle enough to evade attention. That is, until it fell into the hands of a collector sorting through a small bag of loose change on an unremarkable afternoon. The collector had not been looking for anything specific, perhaps just wheat cents or unusual state quarters, but the 2006 cent caught their eye for a reason they couldn't immediately name. The date looked slightly off, the 2 and the 0 seeming to carry a faint shadow, a doubling not explained by wear or dirt. Liberty appeared to lean subtly, the letters not lining up in their perfect, expected way. Even In God We Trust seemed a touch thicker in certain areas, as if it had been struck twice in the same moment but just out of sync. With curiosity piqued, the collector fetched a magnifier and began to study it more closely. Under magnification, the truth began to take shape. This was not the blurred doubling of a coin that had bounced around in circulation for years. The separation in the date was sharp and distinct, a hallmark of a double die rather than a mechanical shift after the fact. On the reverse, the base of the Lincoln Memorial appeared ever so slightly offset compared to the upper portion, and certain column edges bore doubled outlines that shouldn't be there. The details were too clean to be accidental damage. This was something born at the mint itself. The next step was research. The collector consulted online error coin archives, auction records, and forums where enthusiasts compared finds. Reports of a 2006 Lincoln cent with this type of doubling existed, but they were rare. Error specialists believed only a limited number of these coins had been struck before the die was corrected or replaced. Certified examples were scarce in high grades, and when they surfaced, they commanded surprising prices. Over the years, as more collectors learned of the coin's existence, its reputation grew. Modern errors, especially from the 21st century, are much less common than those from earlier decades due to improved technology, making each discovery more exciting. This particular 2006 error became a talking point among Lincoln cent collectors. Its doubling was visible enough to intrigue even casual hobbyists, but scarce enough to keep demand high. Auction results began to climb. Early sales brought modest sums, but as attention spread, bidding wars broke out for well-preserved examples. The coin's appeal lay in its blend of modern history, rarity, and the undeniable charm of a flaw that transformed an ordinary cent into a piece of numismatic intrigue. It was a reminder that even in an age of precision engineering, human and mechanical imperfections still find their way into the minting process. In hand, the error had a certain magnetism. The gleam of the copper plating caught the light, highlighting the doubled lines in the date. The slight shift in the memorial on the reverse created a subtle dissonance, enough to make even a non-collector look twice. Every detail reinforced the fact that this was not just another 2006 penny, but a survivor of a fleeting mint mistake. After authentication and grading, the collector's find was encased in a protective holder, labeled with the error type and the year. It became the crown jewel of their collection, not just for its market value but for the thrill of its discovery. The journey from unnoticed change to prized collectible was a testament to the sharp eyes and patience that define the best treasure hunters. Today, a very rare 2006 US 1-cent penny error of this kind can bring between $32,000 and $98,000, depending on its condition and the intensity of collector demand at the moment it crosses the auction block. In 2015, the Lincoln cent was still a quiet constant in American life, unchanged in design since the bicentennial tributes of 2009 had passed. The obverse carried Victor David Brenner's enduring portrait of Abraham Lincoln, sharpened by decades of refinement, while the reverse featured the Union Shield, an emblem of unity that had replaced the Lincoln Memorial in 2010. Struck from copper-plated zinc, each penny was designed to be uniform and unremarkable, a piece of pocket change passed from hand to hand without ceremony. But within the vast output of billions of coins that year, a small, almost invisible deviation slipped through, something that would later transform a single cent into a sought-after treasure. The Philadelphia Mint, where part of the 2015 mintage originated, efficiency reigned. Modern presses struck hundreds of coins per minute, each die and blank aligned with precision. Quality control was tight, but perfection at such speed is a near impossibility. Somewhere in the flow, a die suffered a subtle flaw, whether from improper preparation, a shifted alignment, or an irregular hubbing process, and a batch of cents left the presses bearing that imperfection. None of them were culled before leaving the facility. At first, the coin lived an entirely ordinary life. It rode in registers, fell into couch cushions, clinked into parking meters, and waited in the dark of a change jar. Its oddity was too discreet to catch the notice of cashiers or casual spenders. The difference was buried in the fine lines of its design, visible only to a trained eye or to someone with the patience to look closely. It was in the hands of such a person that the secret began to surface. A collector, sorting through a batch of pennies in search of wheat cents or die varieties, spotted something unusual in the date. The 2 and the 0 seemed to have a faint echo, a doubled outline that didn't match the wear pattern of the rest of the coin. Liberty had an almost imperceptible tilt in its spacing, and In God We Trust seemed uneven in thickness, as though struck with a slightly shifted die. The Union Shield on the reverse bore tiny distortions in the upper lines, with some edges carrying a ghost-like duplication. The collector set it aside, not entirely certain of what they were seeing. Under magnification, the details were undeniable. This was not post-mint damage, where circulation scuffs mimic doubling. The extra impressions were crisp, deliberate, born at the moment of striking. Doubling on the obverse paired with minor shifts on the reverse was unusual, hinting at a production anomaly that likely lasted only a short period before being corrected. The next move was research. Records of similar 2015 double die cents existed but were few. Specialists debated the total number minted, agreeing that very few had survived in high grades. In forums and auction archives, the coin's image appeared sporadically, each time drawing strong interest from collectors eager to add a modern rarity to their holdings. This coin was a curiosity in the numismatic market. Modern minting technology leaves little room for dramatic errors, and when one surfaces, it stands out sharply. The 2015 cents flaw wasn't dramatic in the sense of a missing design or an off-center strike, but its combination of clear doubling and design shift made it a standout in its subtlety. It was a piece that rewarded the meticulous, the kind of coin you could study under a loupe for an hour, finding new nuances in each glance. Over the months and years that followed, demand grew. Examples certified by major grading services began appearing at auction, often drawing competition from bidders who might otherwise focus on older coins. The appeal was twofold: its rarity in the context of modern minting, and the thrill of owning something that almost certainly slipped unnoticed past thousands of eyes before discovery. For the collector who first spotted it, the find carried a quiet satisfaction. Here was proof that treasure hunting in modern change still held promise, that even in a world of machines built for perfection, imperfection could slip through and create something extraordinary. The penny, once just another copper flash among many, now sat in a protective case, its error immortalized on the label. Today, a very rare 2015 US 1-cent penny with this striking anomaly can command between $26,000 and $88,000, depending on its preservation and the fervor of bidders when it emerges on the market.